Okay, let's try this again. I don't know why it died. Hopefully this video will start going. We're just going to go with it. All right, Monday was Baryta acetica, which Herring and Hahnemann combined the two. Baryta acetica and Baryta carbonica, Herring said there is hardly any difference between the two and certainly none in the symptoms cured. Um, Always remember, consult your doctor. This is merely for educational purposes. So that way YouTube doesn't try to throw me off. Sorry. Burrito carb. So, anyways, burrito carb is especially indicated in infancy and old age, dwarfish children and childish old people. So, children that are not growing well, and then old people that revert back to their childish behaviors. Elderly people who are overweight, it has cured a case of fetid foot sweat with spells of despondency, seeking solitude, sobbing and crying. So they're very bashful. They want to be alone. They're crying. They got melancholy, probably like a depression going on. And fetid foot sweats, you wonder, why is that something? Why is that? I got to make sure this thing's still running. Why is that something? No, any kind of sweats that want to come out, if you suppress them, you will have problems inside. Herring, the one guy that was talked about in Baryta acetica, talks about healing from the top to the bottom, from inside out, from the least most vital organ to the least vital organ, which is the skin. So sweat coming out is the body's way of pushing out toxins and things like that. And if you suppress it, like in the feet or anything, you'll have worse problems. So that's why we look at fetid foot sweat as something that can be part of the case. Clark cured an advanced case of thoracic aneurysm, which is just an aneurysm. We know what an aneurysm is. It can lead to strokes. With it, 3x bar C has cured tumors of several kinds, so it's good for tumors, good for heart, vein stuff, vein, induration in the breasts, lumps, hard lumps in the breast, sarcoma in the neck, which is a tumor with burning fatty tumors. So this sarcoma in the neck with burning. So any kind of tumors in the neck, if they say they have burning, you would consider Baryta carbonica. Scalp is very, let's see, where was I? Sarcoma in the neck, burning, fatty tumors, especially about the neck. So any kind of fatty tumors anywhere, but especially the neck. Swelling and induration of glands. So very big gland remedy. So the veins, the glands, the lack of growth or things like that. So swelling and induration of glands. Barcy has cured baldness in young people. Tinea and wens. Tinea is itchy, skin stuff, and wens also. The scalp is very sensitive to touch, so they don't want their scalp touched. Enlarged glands in occiput and neck. So in the back of the head and the neck, the glands are enlarged. It has proved curative in the habitual colic of children who do not thrive. So these children who are not growing well, they have colic all the time. Baryta carb is very good for that. Enlarged mesenteric glands in the abdomen, those are the abdomen glands. Hungry but refused food. Swallowing is painful, so they can't swallow, and that can be in a cold, a flu, anything like that. Or it can be just because of the situation they have that needs Baryta carb, whatever it is. A case has been recorded in which Baryta carb removed in an old man a pain coming suddenly in hollow of knee and running down the back of the leg in thin stream of hot fluid. It's like there's a hot fluid running down the back of the leg from the knee, like molten metal running down under the skin. So it took care of something like that. And that could be with the veins and things. The constitution of this, I wanted to read this. Bar C has a marked influence on the growth, especially of children and old people who become childish. So it's a real great growth remedy. And Kel Carb has that too. In children, the growth is retarded. They become dwarfish mentally and physically. So ones that are not growing mentally or physically, I'm still running. Children are late coming into usefulness to take on their responsibilities and do their work. Now, Kel-Carb has that same growth factor too. It is a remedy for early senility, and when degenerative changes in old men begin in heart. So they degenerate, especially in their heart, brain, and vascular system. So the heart, brain, and vascular system. Their mind starts going, their heart's not working as well, and their vascular system's not doing good. All right, let's get into it. Baryta carbonate of barium, and barium's what they use when they take X-rays. They put this fluid in you so that the X-rays will show up more. Always have swollen tonsils. That's a 3. Enlarged prostate. That's a 3. Lymphomas and fatty tumors. And lymphomas are basically fatty tumors. Takes cold easily. So they're always catching a cold. Glands, gland enlargement, especially tonsils, cervical, which is the neck, and prostate glands. So there's a lot of enlargement in the glands. Influences growth and the aged. So when the aged have the heart problems, as it says, memory problems, brain problems, and what was the other one? Vein problems. Heart, vein, and brain problems in the aged. And of course, the uh, young, the children, they don't grow physically and mentally. And they don't come into their own to be able to function as as a human being. Better walking in open air, cold food, warm wraps. So they like to get out in the open air for the breeding, undoubtedly. They like cold food, they don't like warm food, but they like warm wraps. So it makes them feel better. Worse, company and the cold and damp. Let's see. Yeah, cold and damp. Okay. I think this is the other one there. Cold exposure of feet. Okay. If in effects of checked foot sweat, that's the causation of things. That seems weird that you do something, whether it's put it in cold water or do something to uh, stop the feet from sweating because they stink. I had a buddy that I worked with. He had that situation, and when your feet stink, you want to take care of it from sweating. You want to take care of it, so you put powders on, you do this and that, and you stop the foot sweat. They get ailments from it. uh, Worse heat of sun, that it brings on headaches. Worse after eating, cold exposure to feet. So any type of cold exposure, whether it's cold water or you let them out in cold air, that makes symptoms worse. And after eating they get worse, and probably stomach situations. But that sun brings on headaches. There's another thing that brings on headaches. I might read it later. I got to remember to stick to the script because I run out of time at the end. They're bashful. They look through, they cover their face or they hide their face. They're very bashful. That's a 3. That's a big one for this Baryta carbonica. Senile dementia. So when they're older and they get dementia, you might want to consider Baryta carb for that. Slow mental, that's a 3. Senile dementia is a 3. Grasp. So they have a slow mental grasp. They can't grasp things very good. And like I said, Cal-carb has somewhat of these situations too. They're silly. So they're very silly. That's a 3. That's all in the mind. Abdomen. Children with large abdomens, of course, they have habitual colic. Mesenteric glands are hard and swollen. So those glands in the abdomen are swollen. Glands are swollen in the nape of the and occiput. That's a 3. Them glands are swollen, and especially in the nape and occiput. Weak spine, tumors in the neck, bruised pain in scapula, between the scapulas. So between the shoulder blades, they have a bruised type of pain, and this can be heart stuff. I know a buddy of mine. He had a pain in the back there between his shoulder blades. He said, "Man, I was at a funeral." He said, "Man," and he's since passed, but he said, I had this pain, and I thought, oh, I just pulled a muscle or something." And his girl said, "Let's go to the hospital." He went to the hospital, and he found out he was actually having a heart attack. So when you have pains in the back of the between the shoulder blades, don't take that lightly. That's not a pulled muscle. That's not this or that. That is definitely some situation with your heart, with your veins. Something's going on. You need to get it checked quickly. Stitches, worse inspiration in the chest. So they get stitches, which is like a sharp shooting pain. Pains mitigated by belching. So that's why I always say when I have a lot of gas, from whatever I ate, I end up getting heart pains until I'm able to burp or fart or whatever, until that gas comes out. So pains are mitigated by belching. fullness and heaviness in the chest. So there's a lot of fullness and heaviness. There doesn't say nothing about dyspnea, I don't think, but asthma and all that kind of stuff. It's crackling noise in the ears. So they got this crackling type of noise. That's a 3. Worse swallowing. So that noise is worse swallowing. Glands around ears are painful and swollen. So there's more swollen and painful ears in the glands, the neck, the occiput. All kinds of glands are swollen with this Baryta carb. Pupils dilate and contract quickly. That's very interesting. I know if belladonna, they'd have their pupils would dilate and stay dilated. And belladonna also, for a woman to look beautiful, they put belladonna drops in the eyes and it dilates them. So, but this one, the eyes, they dilate and then they contract. Or, yeah, they dilate and get big and then they contract quickly. Photophobia, they don't like the light. Cataracts, this is a great cataracts remedy. Baryta carb along with kelp phos and silica. Anybody dealing with cataracts, you could either get them burned off or you could try one of these remedies: kelp phos, silica, and Baryta carb. Why would it be? Which one would you choose? Well, you'd have to see what else is going on with the person, some other symptoms, to match it with one of these medicines. And that's the whole idea. You are just matching symptoms of medicines to the symptoms of the person. And when the better you match it, the better you will get uh, you'll get rid of the cataract. So if you match some of these other symptoms and you get Baryta carb comes up, they seem to have the foot sweat, the glands enlarged, this and that, and they got cataracts. Baryta carb, silica, kelp phos. I'm trying to think of some of the symptoms for these two. I'm not gonna worry about that. I gotta keep going. Pale, puffed sensation on the face, like cobweb. Aluminum has that, like there's a cobweb on the face. Uh, Aluminum would be one you'd consider, if you had other symptoms and you were going for this cobweb feeling on the face. Aluminum would be there along with Baryta carb. Deep red with purple lips. So the face is a real deep red and they have purple lips. Submaxillary glands are swollen. That's in the face, area, the jaw and that. There's glands there. Atrophy of ovaries and breasts. So atrophy is just, not useful. They quit working. So the breast and the ovaries are atrophied. Amenorrhea, which is, bleeding, is that the bleeding one? Dysmenorrhea is a bad, painful bleeding. There's a lot of bleeding. Oh, amenorrhea is, sorry, I had to get those two straight. Amenorrhea is the fact that they're not having a period. It's either scanty, it's not coming on well, but if they do have a period, everything gets better. Leukorrhea immediately before menses. So they know their menses are coming on because this leukorrhea starts. It doesn't say it's smelly. It doesn't say, any colors or anything, but that leukorrhea will start right before their menses. And the amenorrhea is they don't, their menses are not, they're short, they're scanty, they're not very good. I'm still running good. Let's see. And dysmenorrhea is they bleed a lot. So with pain in that. Hungry but refuses food. So they don't want food. I don't know if that's because of the throat or because of the colic and the stomach situations. It could be both. Aversion to sweat things, sweet things. I got sweat. Sweet things, especially fruits and plums. So some, we use that as to determine between a couple medicines. Like if I was doing kelp phos, silica, and carbonic kelp carb for cataracts, and they liked sweet things, it wouldn't be Baryta carb. It'd be one of the other ones. I don't know. I can't remember if these ones. And that's the great thing about the books. You can go look up silica, kelp phos under food, and it would tell you whether they like sweet, they don't like sweet. And this could be the determinant factor for cataracts between these three medicines. One may like sour, one might like be averse, like sweets. This one is averse to sweet things, especially fruits and plums for some reason. Worse, cold food. Worse, cold food, but yet they say they desire better cold food. That must be worse cold food. Worse warm wraps, I'll bet. I don't know. Uh, Sorry, let me look at that. Where is that? I'm not going to worry about it. I've got to keep going. But it's worse cold food, worse warmth. Yeah, that's all got to be worse cold food, worse warm wraps. You know, they want cold air. That's all got to be worse. I must have put the arrow the wrong way. You know, well, the arrow must be right there, but I forgot to put the arrow. Worse cold food, worse warm wraps. Sorry about that. Uh, where was I? Food. Yeah, if it's worse here, it's got to be worse up there. And he may have made a mistake in the book. It's hard to say, you know. He's got four other, what do you call it? Four other editions of the Materia Medica that he's made. So I need to get up to date on them. Weak digestion. So there's that colic. That's why they don't want food. They have colic. They have weak digestion. They've got gas, which is causing them to have stitches in the heart. All that kind of stuff. Okay. Cardiac symptoms after suppressed foot sweat or after masturbation. Now that's very interesting. That's why I say suppressed foot sweats and then they get heart symptoms. That's doesn't seem like they'd be related, but according to Baryta Carb and the provings that they've done, that is definitely related. Or if they masturbate, you know. Anyways, arter- arteriosclerosis, which is you know, the veins getting clogged up. Aneurysms, high blood pressure. So any kind of aneurysm, arteriosclerosis, a lot of hard stuff with this remedy, Baryta Carbonica. Urinating brings hemorrhoids down. So that's a very interesting symptom. They go to urinate and their hemorrhoids come out. It also says when they're stool, when they have their stool, their hemorrhoids come down. Burning in urethra while urinating. So they have burning while urinating and their hemorrhoids will come out. Cold, clammy feet. Calcarea carb has that. And that's why I say kelp seem to be related to this medicine, you know, in certain ways. So kelp carb with the cold, clammy feet, yet they have foot sweat, which is fetid, means it's, that's a 3, which means it's very smelly. And my buddy, he'd take off his shoes in our office and be like, "Holy heck, dude!" You know. So that person probably could have used Baryta carb or kelp carb, and I think kelp carb was more his. That's he seemed that he even his look, he was more heavy set and all that kind of stuff. Pain, axillary glands. That's under the armpit. Those are those glands. Pain in knees while kneeling. Toes and soles sore and painful when walking. So, soles and toes are sore when they walk. Feel hot and bruised at night during sleep. So their toes and their soles, their feet feel hot and sore at night. But their soles and their toes hurt when they're walking. No liver. Asthma. Old people. Worse wet, warm air. So they don't, that, you know, there's the wet, warm air that brings out the asthma. So that's why I say that's got to be worse worse warm wraps, worse cold food. They have chronic bronchitis. So anybody, that's why I say takes colds easily. Chronic bronchitis, they always keep getting that. Dry, suffocative cough, worse every change of weather. Senegal is another remedy for that. Every change of weather brings on that suffocative cough. And it always turns into chronic bronchitis. Lungs and larynx feel like full of smoke. So they, you know, it's an interesting situation. Feels like they got smoke in their lungs all the time. But they have asthma, chronic bronchitis, and a suffocative cough, especially a change of weather. Senegal has that also. Enlarged prostate gland, that's a 3 for males. Testicles indurated, hard, which is what that means. Impotency, they're not potent, they can't make babies. Nodes in breast, old fat men. So old fat men, they get, you know, they gain breast from the fat, you know, their weight, and they get a nodule on there, a hard nodule. And especially in women too, they get the hard nodules on the breast too. Uh, what was I going to say? There was something else I wanted to bring on about this impotency. Oh, you can imagine, you know, men that, you know, they're not able to have babies. They try all these things. When a remedy could come in, like Baryta carb, and there's a few for impotency, you'd have to match other symptoms for this impotency. You'd be amazed at how a remedy could help that. Mouth feels numb, filled with vesicles, especially inside cheeks. So they got a lot of sores in their mouth. Gums bleed and retract. That sounds like a mercury situation. Mercury's another one for all that. Toothache, worse before menses. On a when a lady's gonna have a menses, they get a toothache, and not only they get that leukorrhea and a toothache right before menses. Nose, coryza with swelling of upper lip and nose. Coryza is a thicker sort of mucus, and they get a swelling of their upper lip and nose. Now, arsenicum has burning of the upper lip and nose. Whenever they have this coryza, this mucus. Dry sneezing. So they sneeze, but nothing's coming out. Worse, blowing the nose. So that sneezing comes on when they blow the nose. Discharge of thick yellow mucus. There's that coryza. It's thick and yellow. Nose bleeds. They get nosebleeds from this dryness, dry sneezing, and that they'll get a nosebleed. Crawling in rectum. Constipation with hard, knotty stools, probably why they're getting hemorrhoids. Hemorrhoids protrude urinating, and I would say when they have a stool also they protrude. And they have oozing at anus. So after there's no diarrhea going on here, but they do have oozing at the anus from, you know, it's probably coming from the hemorrhoids basically. Intolerable itching of the skin, that was at wens and tinea. And tingling over whole body at night, so that's really messing with their sleep because they're itchy over the night with a tingling sensation like pricks of burning needles. Now there's, you say, well, what's it feel like? What does this skin stuff feel like? And if they say like burning needles or burning stabbing pain, you would consider Baryta carb. And that's why I always ask, what's it feel like? Sensation, clams, concomitants. What's it related to? The stomach stuff is related to the heart stuff. That's a concomitant. Uh, Location, it's, that one is behind the knee, down the leg. There's a burning. Location, etiology. When did it start? What brought this on? It could be a grief, it could be an injury, it could be, whatever, a loss of something. Uh, what's Etiology? Okay, what's the next one? Clams. Modalities. There's modalities. What's it feel like? That's the sensation. It feels like burning needles. And I always say, is it burning, stabbing, stinging, throbbing? They say burning. And if I'm not clear at that point about the medicine, what kind of burning? Like, is it, and if they would say like needles stuck in there, then I would consider. And sensation. Yeah, is it sensation? Yeah. Modalities. No, no, no. I'm sorry, sorry. Modalities is what's it better by? What makes it feel better? What makes it feel worse? And that's up here. Better walking in open air. Worse cold food. Worse warm wraps. Worse company and cold damp. So that's modalities. And locate sensation is the last one, which is what's it feel like? Burning. You have burning. Is it burning, stabbing, stinging, throbbing, pounding? Oh, they say burning. What kind of burning? If they say, well, it's like somebody sticking hot needles in there. So that's how that all works. Injuries don't heal. Swelling and indurated. So, they get an injury and it just won't heal. Calendula, but Baryta carb may be one you consider. Swelling and induration of glands. So the glands enlarge and they get hard. Warts, acne, lymphomas, cysts, and whitlows. So there's all kinds of skin, like gross, like acne and warts and fatty tumors and cysts and all kinds of stuff on the skin. And the glands are hard and swollen. Sleepiness in the daytime, and that's probably because they're not sleeping at night because of all that skin stuff. Frequent waking and twitching at night. Stomach, water brash, which is heartburn basically. Hiccup and eructations, which are burping up, the food they ate, which gives relief. So when they do uh, burp or hiccup, or when they do burp, it gives relief. Sorry. Pain and weight after meal. So they got to wait. It feels like something's laying on their stomach after a meal. Tender epigastrum. The epigastrum is the lower part. The hypergastrum is the upper part. So that's the lower part of the abdomen or stomach. It's very tender. Tender meaning it doesn't want to be touched. Cali carb has that. dyspepsia of young masturbators with seminal emissions. Dyspepsia is that heartburn. And that's from, and they're saying it's related to the masturbation or any kind, it could be sex too, any kind of seminal emissions. Let's see, where are we at? I got this kind of messed up. Disposition to chilliness. So this is temperature. Relieved by external heat. Takes cold easily with stitches and smarting. That's a 3. Okay, that goes with the temperature. They get cold easily and they have stitches and smarting. That's a 3. Disposition to chilliness, relieved by external heat. Flushes more at night. So more at night they get this hot flushes. So that will keep them awake too, making them sleepy in the day. Sweat, single part. Oh, so whether it's the foot, the hand, whatever, one single part will be sweating, and they have stinky feet. Now, throat is suppurating tonsils. Suppurating means there's pus, and when you look in the tonsils, there'll probably be white patches. If you look in the back of the throat, you'd see white patches back there. That's basically what it comes down with tonsillitis, and they called it quinsy at that point, which I'm going to get to. From every cold, so any cold they get, bronchitis, whatever they got going on, their tonsils will suppurate, and there'll be. That's why I say that's usually white spots. Spasm of esophagus, mercurosive, and graphites has their esophagus spasms. And quinsy, which is tonsils are inflamed, and that's that, suppurating tonsils at every cold. And vertigo of elderly people with nausea, and especially from standing in the sun, they'll get that vertigo, that nausea, and that sun bothers them. They can't stand the sun because of the warmth, because of the light. They have photophobia, and they get headaches from it. Okay, so there's a lot of comments here, and I've got a few minutes to go. A paralytic condition runs throughout the pathogenesis. So paralysis of different parts. Pathogenesis is just the disease. Any disease, any sickness they get paralysis. Whether it's the heart condition, whether it's the gland swollen, whether it's a cold, they get some kind of paralysis going on. So it runs throughout the whole disease situation. There is paralysis of mind and body. Okay. Mistrust, want of self-confidence, averse to stranger. The child does not want to play. So they really like solitude. They don't like new people. They don't like any people. And they're very shy and bashful. Their confidence is down. They have mistrust of everybody. Children cannot remember and learn. So this is that good for when they're, the mind is basically paralyzed. They can't learn, they can't remember. Sensation of as if brain were loose. So they move the head, it feels like the brain sloshes around. Vertigo with nausea. And all these things will help you to choose this medicine compared to a couple others that it could be. When you look it up in the repertory, when you look it up in the repertory, you'd probably get a few medicine under whatever condition you're looking up. You take any part of the body, the heart, cardiac symptoms, and that, foot sweat, you look it up, and you'd probably get a bunch of different remedies. And if this person has, they can't remember, they're very distrustful in that, Baryta card. The other, you may have other symptoms of that person that would match some of the other remedies. Sensation, okay, vertigo with nausea from stooping. So they bend over and they get vertigo and nauseous. When lifting arms up in old people, so they get that vertigo when they lift their arms up too. They'll get dizzy. That's in old people. Pressure and sticking in brain. Now this stooping and this nausea and that can be anybody, but that lifting up of the arms and they get dizzy is in old people. Pressure and sticking in brain at vertex on waking. So they wake up and they got this pressure in the front of their vertex in the top of their head, right? And it's a sticking type of pain. I don't know, pressure and sticking anyways in the vertex, the top of the head when they wake up. On the face, there are rough, dry, and herpetic eruptions. That's herpetic, which is like cold sores, basically, on the face. But they got herpetic eruptions on the face. Dark redness of the face, tension of whole face as if white of egg had dried on it, as if a cobweb. And Baryta ascetica, which is the one I did Monday, has that, along with, what was it, the face. Cobweb. Aluminum also has the cobweb on it. So aluminum, Baryta ascetica and Baryta carbonica with that cobweb or like a egg dried on the face. Temples and scalp. So it feels like it's over the face. The cobweb or the dried egg is over the face, the temples, and the scalp. So the whole area up here feels like there's a cobweb or a dried eggs on it. And like I said, Baryta acetica and Baryta carbonica and alumina has that. Now these two, Baryta acetica and carbonica, I think the alumina is just on the face. This one runs up the temples and over the scalp. Painful swelling of paratoid and of submaxillary glands. This is all on the face and the neck. Those glands are all swollen. The sense of smell is very acute, so they can't take smells. There is an illusion of smell as of pine smoke. So they have this illusion that there's smoke in the lungs and they're smelling smoke. Nosebleed before menses. So that's interesting. You know, the body wants to push things out, and this one has amenorrhea, which their menses are scanty, so they tend to get a nosebleed before their menses. The tongue, and don't forget, before the menses, the leukorrhea will start too. So the body's there. That's the body trying to push things out of the person. Oh, I'm over time. All right, the tongue is paralyzed. Salivation, saliva runs out during sleep. And Mercury has that, a lot of salivation. The digestion is weak after eating. Pressing in stomach and pain is in hard, swollen abdomen. Sensation of soreness of stomach while eating. It feels as if the food had to force its way through some raw place. That's the throat, unable to swallow. The anus is sore and humid. Hemorrhoids protrude with urination as well as stool. Constipation with hard, knotty stools. Hemorrhoids. Burning and soreness. The paralytic condition appears in the sexual organs. So the sexual organs become paralyzed. Soreness and moistening between scrotum and thighs. Impotence. Enlarged prostate. So that's all male stuff. There is also a paralytic condition of the respiratory organs. So there's that paralysis of the respiratory system. There is a feeling in the larynx as if inspiring smoke or pitch, hoarseness and loss of voice from cough, mucus in larynx and trachea, suffocating catarrh, so that mucus is basically suffocating them, and paralysis of the lungs in old people, sensation as if a lungs full of smoke. There's a spasmodic cough like whooping cough from roughness and tickling in throat and pit of stomach. So the cough comes all on from that. Oh my goodness, I'm going to be over big time. Oh well, cough is worse evening and until midnight after getting feet cold or exercise. So they have this cough is worse from exercise, midnight, and getting feet cold. Lying left side, cold air, thinking of it. So all those situations bring on the cough. Cold air, thinking of it, lying on left side, feet being cold, midnight after getting in the evening. Okay, palpitation with soreness of heart, worse lying on left side, worse thinking of it, violent, long-lasting palpitations, felt in head. Palpitations worse on exertion, slightest exertion makes him feel tired and sleepy. These heart symptoms of bar C are met with, in many cases, of aneurysm and atherosclerosis. That's all the vein stuff going on, clogged veins in that. And no remedy has a better record here. So aneurysm's very big for Baryta carb and all the vein stuff. A marked symptom is pulsation in the back, stiffness and tension in smaller back in evening, especially while sitting, allowing neither to rise nor to bend backwards. Painfulness in arms and swelling of axillary glands, which is under the armpits. Cold feet, fetid perspiration of feet, corns with burning and stinging, burning and drawing pains are frequent in lower limbs. Tearing in limbs with chilliness, tension, and shortening of muscles, intolerable irritation all over, like prickling and tingling of the skin and that. Waking him at night, itching, sore, and humid skins, warts, burning pains are found in many parts, general soreness and sensitiveness, small wounds ulcerate and get very sore. Offensive sweat of one side, mostly left. Barcy has cold, clammy feet, as notable as calcarea. That's why I say calcarbs related to this pretty good. Just as I thought. Chilliness predominates. Left side much affected after eating. So weak, cannot raise his hands. Too weak to masticate. Too weak to chew. So, all right, I'm 5 minutes over. That's Baryta Carbonica. That is morning medicine. You can age, but you don't have to get old. Wow, that was a lot.